Good evening and welcome back. My name's Matthew McLaughlin.
And I'm Daniel Sandner.
And we have some notes for...
Jojo Rabbit.
Yep, Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi, if he was Hitler... There's no other way of saying it. That's exactly what this movie is.
That's entirely what the movie was sold on. I remember when the marketing came out for it was Taika Waititi doing his best Hitler impersonation. And
yeah, it was like the first 15 minutes. That was the entire marketing for the whole movie.
Pretty much. Pretty much. You know what, though? I mean, even so many years later after this has come out, I freaking love this movie. It's just such a good movie. It's like a perfect satire. It's a perfect coming-of-age story. It's so pretty to watch. It's got really genuine, good, funny writing, really good sad and emotional moments. I don't know. Every time I watch this movie, I like it a lot. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, it's real entertaining. This is the second time that I've seen it. The movie came out in 2019. I think I watched it probably a year or two ago with you. And I had forgotten that I had seen it. So when it started up, I was like, oh, yep, I've seen this. And as soon as we got past the hand grenade incident, I was like, yep, definitely seen this. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
But no, it was a really good movie. What shocked me the most this time was just how good the cinematography was. Mm-hmm. Whoever was in charge of that, a lot of it felt Wes Anderson with its color, with a lot of the framing. There were a lot of shots where there was that symmetry and the pastel colors that he always goes for. And it was just it was really nice to look at. From a cinematography standpoint, it was just beautiful set design, beautiful framing. They just did such a good job with it.
Very true. I was noticing the cinematography a lot on this one too, and even the shots of following characters by doing just kind of the dolly, or while he's like getting in the building while the city's getting bombed, and it follows him across and then brings it down, and it's all completely parallel to the wall. A lot of Wes Anderson vibe in here for sure, which makes it makes it almost like warming to watch. Like it just is so aesthetically pleasing. Between the symmetry and like when his mom and him are on the stairs by the river, and it's this giant like ultra wide shot, but they're down here at the bottom of the stairs, and there's this like really pretty leading line of the stairs all the way down to them at the bottom, and it's just such a pretty shot. It's just
very pretty shot,
so pretty.
I'm sure that it was intentional, because intentional movies always portray what they're going for, and this movie really gave you that childhood feel of this. It's a comedy, obviously. You have Taika Waititi dressed up as Hitler the entire movie. Of course it's a comedy. But at the same time, you do have this very serious feeling of what would it be like to be a 10-year-old going through Hitler youth camp, and how would you perceive the end of the war? I mean, there are beautiful colors, and there are things coming of age, and all these other themes and looks to it that stand out from every other war movie ever. And it's just an interesting take. Take away the comedy aspect and go for the drama that was done very well, I would say. Great movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it's probably goes down in history as one of my favorite satires too, because it gives you this lens, this very, very unique angle of the war. I mean, yeah, you've had movies that are from the German aspect, from their point of view, or books even, like All Quiet on the Western Front. And it shows kind of the fact they were getting the snot beat out of them over the course of the war. But then, add the twist of it being from someone in the Hitler Youth, and then especially from that of a child. And you're seeing all of these vibrant colors and all these things, portrayed perfectly in the companion that is Hitler for him, where it's his imaginary friend, it's also his alter ego. And it's because it's the person that he looks up to the most in the world. And you see, hello, that's Coda. You see just his lens through and through, and it's innocence, it's naivete. It's so refreshing to see something so dour satirized so well. And every time I watch it, I'm like, between the writing and just the attention to detail in this particular watch, noticing the transitions, there were a lot of really, really well leading transitions that went from such good cinematography, but also really good writing, to where the whole movie flows. Not really like a train of thought, but like it just blends so well. Like you're never hit with something crazy. Like you're just kind of hooked in, and you just kind of ride it all the way through, and it's never jarring. So between that and the coming of age aspect, where he's forging relationships and learning things all the time, and going through tough struggles and family issues along with the crazy stuff of the war, it's so well blended. I don't know. I love coming of age stories. I'm kind of a kind of a fan of them. Like if you've ever seen Stand By Me or some of the ones that are, had Goonies, I guess you could say too. I don't know. There's just something about portraying like a friend dynamic or a family friend dynamic or like young love dynamic or something that I just find really interesting. And I think this one is just such a unique lens to do it through. It's just written so well.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's all completely intentional. If there were any critiques, I would say that the shock of the mom's shoes being at his eye level, I totally get the feeling. Obviously, that's a completely shocking thing to have happen. I think the only thing that could make it more shocking is I don't think there was anything said about why the little boy was going out again. I don't think there was anything said. He was just kind of leaving the house to go do general things. Do you remember any line, like any dialogue that was said saying, I'm going out to do something?
I'm trying to remember because that was after he went to collect metal, or was that before? He had a emotional something with Elsa. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think was at the moment he basically said Nathan, no, because that was earlier on. It was a moment with Elsa, but yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember why exactly he was out there.
Yeah.
And suddenly it was darker. He found out something that was darker because I remembered when the scene came back up, it was bluer. I mean, everything was graded far less saturated. It had a bluer shift to it. So something sad was happening. But then he chased the butterfly. Yeah, why was he out there?
That was my whole point, is that the moment was less impactful because I didn't know why he had left the house. I think that it was just kind of the natural next thing was for him to leave, but it was just a general feeling. Like if I had a note on that particular scene, because that moment should have hit harder, it would have been to have some sort of dialogue saying, it's late, I don't know where Mama is, or I need to go get bread. Just something, a reason for him to be going. It sets our expectations up for just a regular thing happening. He's going out to just go do something in the city, and then he comes across a butterfly, looks up, and then bam, there's the tragedy. We're not expecting it, whereas because there's no kind of... Whenever you're trying to play this trick of having this crazy shock moment, you need the audience to think that they're going one way, and then boom, they're going the other direction. And since we didn't know where the scene was going wherever, we were super easily malleable that boom, when it happened, it wasn't as impactful. So that'd be my first note, is just to have some sort of dialogue letting the audience know, hey, go that way, but it's actually going to end up over here.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain at what happened before that, because the Gestapo came in, that was earlier, but that was a ways earlier. And it wasn't, I'm trying to think if it wasn't a thing with Elsa being like mad at him or something like that that caused him to go for a walk. It was something like that though, I think. I see what you mean. I don't know. This
And he was like picking up bread or something, but they never said it.
That's true.
There was a scene where he was picking up bread, and then he was walking around, and then he saw the butterfly.
Just kind of aimlessly out.
But why was he out in the first place? Why did he change locations? It was never said. And ironically, we always say show, don't tell. This is an instance where I feel like a little bit of telling could have helped the showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or even if he was out just doing his rounds again for, putting up propaganda or whatever. I see what you mean. I don't know. I still feel like the moment has enough impact. It's a moment that makes me tear up almost every time. So I think it's effective, but I see what you mean. That's definitely a fair point. Gosh, yeah, I wish I remember what was before it. I could give it a little more of a fair shake, but that's fair. I don't know. I was trying to ding it on some things, and honestly, I mean, on an aesthetic basis, it's so good. The writing is just really fun and natural. The acting's really good. I thought the casting's really good. I mentioned you while we were watching it. It's like the only movie I like Rebel Wilson in because she's just so outlandish, and I love it. And it doesn't stink of the kind of cheap Taika Waititi jokes that he has in some of his other movies. It's not rank. Like, it has an innocence, an overall innocence, and it needs that to be effective. It's really, I don't know, really good. I was racking my brain watching it, being like, I don't have a whole lot for it. And I'm a little biased because this movie has some, not significance, but it has good memories tied to it, so it's harder to judge. I first watched it when I worked at Disney, and it was a movie I had never really heard of. I knew it was the one with Hitler in it, and I thought it was going to be this, like the producer style, just like irreverent comedy. And I remember going to see it by myself at one of the, like the dine-in theaters because it wasn't showing in like one of the main theaters at Disney. And I walked out of it just like heartstrings tugged. I was like, that just was such a refreshing, original, unique movie. And every time I watch it, I'm reminded of that. So it's hard to judge because because even like what you mentioned with lead ups to things, it so intelligently keeps like the not theme even, but the action of like tying shoes. And the fact that before she gets hung, you see her walking on walls. You see the approach of the shoes, and if you hadn't seen it before, you don't think much of it. But then all of a sudden, when it happens, like I think that's what hammers it in most for me, is it sets it up. The foreshadowing is really really good, and just the budding relationship and everything too. I don't know. It's hard to fault. I mean, even the scenes that you think would be more just dumb, like the Heil Hitler one where they're all heiling each other every time. I love that scene so much. Like Stephen Merchant is such a creepy dude, and he's just is looming through, and he's this wacky character during that whole thing. And yet there's still thorough tension, and there's still it's like it's paced perfectly. I don't know. It's hard for me to fault this movie. I'll be honest. It's a sentimental movie.
That scene, the Heil Hitler scene, everybody's saying it. That scene needs to get more recognition for its writing. I don't really remember a scene that I can think of where everybody's saying the same thing and it's played for laughs at the beginning, and then all because another person has to say it, that the entire emotion flips on its head. And now it's scary and there's tension in the air and you can feel it. Everybody said it before. All these other people said it before and it was funny. And now all of a sudden the girl has to say it or she dies.
Right. It's entirely just unknowing of what's going to happen next, which is great.
Impeccable writing, and it deserves more credit. I think it's one thing that you could use as examples of how to really think about something that would be, not a big deal to some characters, but is the world to others. Just keeping that in mind. So it's a really, really good example of that.
It's true. That is very true. And seeing it from that lens is always fun. Those types of scenes with almost passive-aggressive writing, where you as a viewer, I mean, we had seen it before, but for a first time especially, it's just the inability to read the room. And you see, one character, like you mentioned with Elsa, just being petrified that something's going to go wrong. When they ask for her papers, her heart sinks and everything. And yet the rest of it is just all these wacky military men just heiling Hitler to each other. It's hilarious. Yeah. It is. It's great writing. I definitely admire the writing between Elsa and Jojo throughout their budding relationship too. The kind of wittiness that she has to be able to play this little 10-year-old boy like a fiddle and essentially get what she wants is just so blasted entertaining. I love it every time when they're battling it out like siblings, or they have kind of the little love thread that goes between them. The way that he, as a 10-year-old boy, is able to manifest his emotions through letters that it came from Nathan, who she set up early on, but knew early on wasn't alive, didn't exist. It's just, I don't know. It's just such a innocent yet complex relationship that's just so much fun every time to watch and to experience again and again. And just seeing it's acted so well too for such young kids.
Yeah, the fact that these kids were able to do such a good job is commendable.
Exactly.
I'm sure the kid actually must be around 10 years old, something like that.
Probably.
But man, he killed it. He did such a good job.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. He's just embodies it so perfectly. All of it so perfectly. So, and I think this is still one of his only movie credits. I was looking him up on IMDb and he has like really nothing. So
hopefully there's residuals in the contract.
Right, I hope so. Well, and the other kid, Yogi or Yoshi or whatever his name is, the kid with the glasses, went on and did that horrible Home Alone remake for Disney Plus, and his career kind of flopped. And he's always done what he did in this movie. Like he's this fun little caricature of a kid, but he's not an actor necessarily. So yeah, they always say you're not supposed to work with animals or kids in the film industry, and you have kids leading the charge on this. So
I get the feeling like this was a movie that just had the moons align. I really get that feeling because it's an idea that doesn't seem like it should work. It seems like it should be too campy. It feels like it shouldn't be that serious. It feels like it shouldn't work. Yet you have amazing talent in the actors. You have the ability to pull it off. You have the heavy subject matter of being based in end of World War II in Nazi Germany. And you have a director, Taika Waititi, who arguably is not that good. I mean, what did he do?
He's
Thor, Love and
debatable.
Thunder.
I am mixed on him.
Yeah.
Like, I liked What We Do in the Shadows and some of his like TV shows and things, but yeah, he's mixed for sure.
In his comedy, I'm very not.
He can
not
be
that big
really
a
good or
fan.
really annoying.
Yeah, annoying is definitely a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have this perfect alignment where everybody seemed to have done their job. It seems like everybody did their job, from the cinematographer to the actors to the set designers to producers to whoever. It just seems like it all came together the way that everybody dreams movies should have, and it comes across on screen.
Yeah, you could tell that everyone was there to have fun, that it was a good environment for sure. Yeah, I completely agree. I think the one thing that killed this movie was COVID, potentially, or it was 2019, so it was like right before COVID, wasn't it? So I wonder if, because that would have been right around when streaming was roaring back up because Disney Plus came out around that time. And I'm trying to think why it didn't hit mainstream, because it's a well-reviewed movie. Like, it did well critically, but yeah, I don't think it pulled massive numbers.
I think it's got to be the very simple fact that you have Hitler as a comic.
Well, I don't know, though. I mean, we're such a generally dark humored society.
Yeah, but
You'd
if
think
you
that'd pull people right in, right?
If you look at the political spectrum and how quick people are to call each other Nazis in the modern era, I mean, you have your kids going and seeing a Nazi movie where that's the made up friend. I can see that just turning parents off, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it for the parents thing for sure. I don't know. Maybe it is due to marketing. I know marketing can destroy a lot of movies before they start, but I don't know. I love it because the whole thing, although you've got a lot of star power in it, a fair amount of star power in it, it reads art house. Like, it has the Wes Anderson vibe where he gets funding, certainly, but his movies are very much art house. And this one is in a very similar vein where it feels like a small movie with a really big bite, with a really big punch, to where it's very impactful, and it did so without a whole lot of need for a giant budget or anything like that. I'd want to look up its budget, see what it was looking like, but I don't know. I'd be curious to know if it broke even and how it did, touching base on it, 6 years later, because I think that it's still, I mean, it's kind of a timeless tale. It has a lot of themes in it that are timeless. And even watching it 6 years later, I'm still moved every time. And I've seen it, half a dozen times at this point, 8 times or something. So I don't know. I think one character that I am perpetually impressed with every time is Scarlett Johansson's character. Every time I watch her performance, I'm like, what a badass mom. Like, holy crap. Like, talk about someone who is just noble through and through, who wants absolutely what's best for her family and her son, but does so in just such a unique and like almost whimsical way. Like, I love the scene where she has to yell at him as the father. And she comes off almost as insane, but also just endearing. And like, everything is just absolutely from the heart. And every time I watch this movie, she is just such a fun character. I love her character so much. She's just like the epitome of genuine good. And oh my gosh, Parent of the Year award. So
yeah, honestly, it's almost taking notes. Eventually I want to have a family, and if I can deal with having a kid yelling at a parent in that aspect and be able to deal with it in that well, I know it's a movie character, but it doesn't mean we can't take inspiration.
It's true.
It's
true. Like,
really
she
good.
de-escalated, a angry situation with her son, and it was so insanely impressive that she could do it in such a just a genuine and heartfelt way. Especially when he relates so much to his dad. He's been missing his dad, and he really looks up to more of an authority figure. And she's just able to completely de-escalate the situation and do that. So I think between her and, I don't know, I always enjoy Sam Rockwell's character. I think he's super fun in a lot of his movies. And he's always super fun in this one too, where he's just he's not like oblivious, but he's over it. And I love his character equally as much. Just his weird, quirky general guy who's stuck with these kids because he's made one too many mistakes. And I don't know. Those two characters are always super fun to me. So yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Sam Rockwell's character was awesome. He was so entertaining the whole movie, and I love the fact that You got to see that he was a high-ranking general and he got demoted for what he felt was a dumb reason, which caused him to make more dumb mistakes and got demoted. And you follow his downfall, and he's just like over it the entire movie. It was entertaining to watch.
And at the end, he just goes crazy and comes out into war with his new outfit just blasting through. But then he has this reconciliation moment where he gets Jojo out of being gunned down. So I don't know. The characters, I feel like even the secondary characters in this movie are all just so interesting. They're all just written in such an interesting way. Stephen Merchant with the Gestapo and just his scene, he just commands that. Obviously, all the leads, but even like Rebel Wilson or the secondhand man to what's his face, general guy I was just talking about, whose name I just forgot it, Sam Rockwell's character, or Yogi or anything. Like everyone is just so fun and interesting, and it just works so well. I don't know. Maybe that's due to the book. Maybe it's a good lesson to read the book it's based off of and see, how much was there to work with or how much was adapted. Maybe the book was a little more serious. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any specific notes that you would give this movie, thinking about it?
Thinking more and more. I like your note. As I think about that more, I do definitely agree. Wondering about the place of like Yogi's character, he's really the only character that doesn't make a ton of sense because he just kind of shows up every once in a while to kind of help propel the plot. But, there aren't scenes that kill the momentum. There aren't characters that are overly useless. Heck, even the motivation of the music through it. I like the music for this movie. Michael Giacchino did like The Incredibles and stuff. And even that, like the music that propels it through, it's just all really good. So it's hard for me to fault it, to be completely honest with you. It's just, it checks a lot of boxes for me. So I don't know. I hate to say that considering how harsh we are in some movies, but my opinions are few and far between on this one. I think it's just done really well.
Daniel even likes a kid being blown up with a grenade.
I really do. I love it.
It's funny. That scene was really funny, though. That was the problem.
Yeah, it's really funny. Or the one where Rebel Wilson's like, all right, just run towards anything that moves. And there's a grenade strapped to the back of this kid. And she pulls the rope and he runs out in there. It's just like comic. Just like, I am a sucker for dark humor generally. And I love the illogical and even sometimes logical limits that this movie pushes with the satire of just being like, seriously, though, if we just pushed this to absolute absurdity, what would it look like? And here you are. I mean, you have like Sam Rockwell just like shooting Rebel Wilson, she's almost always holding a gun and it's always pointed at somebody. And she's like, yeah, so just you do. And it's so dumb, but I love it so much because it just shows how absolutely incompetent everybody is. And, it gives people like Scarlett Johansson's character a huge upper hand because she comes in and like kicks him in the balls and immediately says, you blew up my son. And he's just, everything that's going on in the office or going on in the training camp is just stupidly absurd. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny. I don't know.
I'll definitely say when we're talking about characters, one of the biggest complaints that I have with any movie that we rank fairly low on the 5-star system is that they don't stick to what the character is supposed to do. Now, they don't commit. This is different from a character arc because, like, a character arc is sticking with their arc, letting them go through changes and have challenges to stick through it and go through that arc. A lot of movies, they'll have somebody who is supposed to be going through an arc and gets cut off halfway.
Right.
And they feel like a dead character. Or they'll have somebody who, likewise, jumps in halfway through and is the main at the end.
Right.
What the heck is going on? Or they'll have somebody who they just don't commit and they don't stick with their idea, even if they're a one-dimensional, stagnant character and they don't change. Mm-hmm. They just don't let it ride. The classic example is in modern movies where the dad is portrayed as a leader maybe in the beginning and then a complete fool throughout the rest of the movie.
Like what? Do you have a movie example?
I don't have a movie for example, but there are so many where they portray the dad as a bumbling idiot. Same thing in TV shows. Everybody's seen that.
Yeah.
Where you just don't there's no respect given to the character and there is the audience can't buy into what's happening. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm saying this all to make a point with, ironically, Taika's Hitler character. They committed to making fun of Hitler the whole movie.
Right.
They committed to him being a buffoon, to being a caricature, to being the jester the whole movie. That's what they did. And the fact that they were able to do that and there was no seriousness really let the other characters work. The fact that Rebel Wilson's character was kind of funny and quirky the entire movie, it worked. The fact that the mom was so serious the entire movie, as far as being a really good mom. Like, she was just a good mom. She wasn't a caricature or anything. It all just worked because they stuck to what the character was and let it happen.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those movies where, hopefully it seemed like the writer achieved the state of bringing, they developed the story, and then they essentially, once the characters were a thing, they allowed themselves to kind of step back and let the characters write their own story. And so I think it really helps give you this sense of an actual grounded reality where you can believe what the characters are doing genuinely. And it's awesome. It creates really compelling characters, and their motivations are really compelling. And even things like the death of the dad. No, the dad wasn't dead. The daughter was dead. But the loss of family members. It wasn't a cheap thing. Like, oh, he's sad because his dad is dead or whatever. They were actually genuinely ingrained within the story in such a way that it drove everything. I mean, he
had to have a dead sister, because otherwise, if he didn't, the Jewish girl would have been found out.
Yeah.
That had to happen.
Yep, exactly. So, and even finding her to begin with, and the theories of a ghost in her room and stuff like that, to where he went and checked it out. And so, yeah, like everything it made sense. Like, they committed to it. And your speak on the Hitler character, I think even taking the whole like comic relief element out of it, he is such a good pivotal character and a good plot point or plot device for Jojo, because he is literally his inner thoughts. Instead of doing narration, instead of doing him like talking to himself or quiet scenes like that, they leaned more into the satire and more into the ridiculous to be like, look, he's a 10-year-old boy who is so very naive. What if, instead of giving him some bland imaginary friend or having him do something that's like a surrogate of that, let's just go insane and let's just make his imaginary friend the person he looks up to the most in his life, Hitler. And Hitler he speaks exactly the way you would think a 10-year-old boy would think. I mean, when the 10-year-old boy is starving, he imagines Hitler across the table eating a unicorn head. Or Hitler only does what is within his head and what's within what Jojo knows and believes. And so like when he's shot and everything too. And it's just such a great plot device to have the imaginary character steer him through and be not necessarily the voice of reason, but to be something else, to be his internal conflict personified, and in such a funny way, such a good way. It has the same kind of passive aggressive elements that we'd all have in our head where we're like, yeah, we could, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, no, if you want to, it's just so good. It's just, I don't know. I love it. And I'm guessing as Taika Waititi, because I think he's Jewish himself, it was probably fun to step into the shoes of, a well-known German and make a little bit of fun, directly. So, yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know. I don't think I have many notes. And in terms of praises, we had some pretty darn good praises. Cinematography was really good. Acting performances, set design, the colorful color grade and everything too. It kept it simple and it was effective.
So in that case, because you like this movie so much, is there one overarching item or theme or something that aspiring filmmakers such as ourselves could take from this movie to apply to their own?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, speaking mostly towards the characters, having characters or developing a situation with, I don't know exactly, I'm still learning a lot on just how to write things myself, but let your characters write themselves. Like you had spoken with, where the characters really only did what you would absolutely imagine they do. They didn't do anything dumb. There was nothing that was, weird that drew you out, anything like that. I think that this is just such a good movie for really genuine character development. And it could have been very different. They could have leaned completely on the comedy to pull themselves through this movie. They didn't. This movie is like a very even split between, a gut-busting comedy and a really good drama, a really good, endearing drama. And I think that speaks volumes towards just the very simple nature of the situation with the characters that are so well written and portrayed and acted, that it is such a heavy character-driven movie, and you relate to every single character. So, let your characters write themselves. Develop a solid situation in which your world can exist and the story that occurs. Get to know your characters, and then let your characters write themselves. That's kind of what I'd say. This is a prime example of that, I think.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's some really good points to take. Let the characters be who they are meant to be.
Do you have a key takeaway?
I would say an easy one for me is set design. I'm just very much reminded in this movie that set design is so hugely important with actually making a high quality cinematic product. If you're going to invest in your expensive cameras and you're going to invest in some nice lighting and you're going to hire actors and costumes and all of that stuff, and then you put them on a very bland background with bland blocking, well, it's just not going to be as good as it could be. So remembering for myself to always try to do some good set design, that's what I'll remember from Jojo Rabbit.
Fair enough. Can I piggyback off that real quick? I thought of something else. Have fun making movies, because I think at the end of the day it really shows. And it's not to say that I know if this was a fun production, but it sure seemed like it. You had talked at how well the cinematography, or just how fun it is to watch, how much it gels with the actual feel of how the story should be. It matches the aesthetic of everything so ridiculously well. And it is just so fun as a viewer to be a part of this movie. And it really makes you think that, at least you'd hope, that they had a really good time making it, that this was a really fun set to be on. And it bled into every aspect of production, to cinematography, to specific direction, blocking, acting. I mean, I don't even know. The Scarlett Johansson scene where she was the dad could have been probably, mostly improvised. I know Taika likes to do a lot of improv. Maybe some of his was too. I don't know. But it sure seemed like they were having fun. So I think when you have fun on sets, especially on movies that are more fun, it shows.
Definitely.
I don't know. Shall we rate?
Yeah, so right now we'll go ahead and cut. We'll give our scores out of 5. We basically rate every movie that we watch out of 5. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll tell you the categories in a second, and we'll be back like that. So we just got our scores, and we're going to start off with uniqueness.
Uniqueness. I gave it a 4.5. I think the story itself is quite unique. I mean, we have a lot of World War II stories in which people, there are Nazis and Jews, and think of like The Book Thief or things like that. So it's definitely in a genre that's pretty sapped dry, and even like the coming of age kind of stuff is fairly, it's done fairly often. But this one it gives it a really solid spin in a really refreshing way, and does it so well that I'm not going to say it's absolutely perfect, because I have a hard time saying anything's absolutely perfect. But 4.5, I think, is fitting of as unique of the story as it is, even though really at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple framework for the type of story you're telling,
Yeah, I went even higher. I went 4.8. Yeah, I wouldn't say perfect by uniqueness, just because, again, it's hard to hit a perfectly unique movie. But in this one, I gave extra points because even though there are elements from other movies, the way that this one does it and the fact that it stands out is such, like, in my brain, if I think, is there anything like Jojo Rabbit out there?
There's not much.
There's not much. I can't really think of anything. So for me, 4.8, extremely unique movie.
Fair enough. Okay, what you got for cinematography?
4.5.
Okay.
It was just so well done. It just was. It was one of the first things that I talked about being such a good thing in this movie, was just how beautiful it was and how nice it was to look at and how everything made sense. Even some like chaotic panning that happened when the mom came home and she had been out and Jojo was questioning her and stuff. Like even that like little bit of chaos made sense. She was a little bit frantic. So cinematography 4.5. It was really, really good.
Absolutely. I gave it even higher, actually. I gave it a 5. I think for what this movie aimed to do, the cinematography was actually perfect for it. Maybe every single shot wasn't an absolute masterpiece, but the number of camera techniques used throughout were awesome. It is gorgeous. It is intentionally composed. It informs the story in every possible way, I think. And so overall, your cinematography is the window into your story. It is what makes the movie in a lot of ways. Doesn't have to be as pretty as it was, and it's perfect. It's whimsical and childlike and also super sophisticated. So yeah, solid 5 in my book.
Nice. Next category is story.
Story. I gave story a 4. It's a really fun story. I wouldn't say it's complex in the types of emotions they're dealing with, but like it's a fairly simple story. It has the usual kind of, them almost getting busted. It has elements that you'd kind of expect within these types of genres. So I wouldn't say that the story was like so insane. Was it really well done? Absolutely. I think it was a solid contender as a really well done story. So yeah, I don't know. Not absolutely perfect, but certainly very close. So I give it a 4.
Nice. I gave it a 3.5. Good story. Just for whatever reason, both times watching it, it's lost me a little bit towards the middle and towards the end. I don't know exactly why, because it's still entertaining and the visuals are still really good and everything. But yeah, it just lost me a little bit. So 3.5. Really good, but could have been better.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, how about execution?
Execution, 4.4.
Oh.
Yes, 4.4. Really good. The fact that they were able to execute this amazing story with Hitler as the comic relief and the jester in this situation just blew my mind. It's so well shot. The acting's amazing. We can only think of one character that kind of was just there, but when he was on screen, he was enjoyable, for goodness sake.
He didn't hurt the movie.
The costume design, the setting, the colors, everything. So execution was 4.4. It was really, really, really good.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. 4.5, though. It's about as well executed as a movie like this could be. I think there's very few things they could do better. I actually kind of admire the fact that they kept it within a PG-13 rating, because I think that had they had jumped even further, it would have hurt the movie. I think that
this definitely
losing
didn't
some
need
of the
to be
innocence. Exactly. There's one F-bomb and several other ones, but it's not. It's executed as it needs to be. It keeps all of the elements that are accurate to the characters and to the story. So yeah, good execution. So.
The next one is immersion.
Immersion. I give it a 4.5. I'm honestly pretty locked in every time I watch this movie. I've definitely dozed off a little bit too in the middle. There's a lot of dialogue certainly and a lot of emotional building in the middle that tends to be on the slower side. But between the color palettes and the really pretty shots, the really funny dialogue, the music, everything, I'm locked in. It's pretty consistent for the 7 or 8 times I've seen it, that like every time I'm like, I love this movie, I'm locked. So yeah, 4.5. I think it's super immersive. They get you right into the situation and into the style very, very well.
Yeah, for me it was a 3. It was a 3. It wasn't checking my watch, but I found myself dozing. And that happened both times that I've seen it now. So it was really good because when I was engaged, I was really, really engaged. But any movie where I start to doze, the immersion just loses it for me. So
Gotcha.
Above average score, but nothing amazing. Immersion was a 3.
Okay. Emotional connection. What you got?
Emotional connection's a 2.
Okay.
I don't leave here with many emotions afterwards. And it was the same thing that I watched it before. I just wasn't super emotionally connected to this movie. I don't know if it's because maybe I wasn't like the kid when I was growing up or whatever, but the first 20, 30 minutes are the best of this entire movie, for sure. And the serious nature of the remaining 2/3 was really good, but again, it just didn't hit that hard for me. So emotional connection's just a 2.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to come out of the woodwork and be very different on that one. I give it a 5, actually. I connect with this movie super well. Like I already said, coming of age stories are some of my favorites. I do relate to them a lot. Just getting through the emotions of life, whether it's friendships or relationships or family dynamics or things like that, are, at least in movie form, oddly interesting to me and relatable to me, which is ironic because I'm not terribly a people person. And so, I don't know, I relate to them and they make me tear up because they're so real and they're so ingrained, I think, at least in most everybody's lives, that someone has a version of a coming of age story. So other ones are like Lady Bird or, like I said, Stand By Me, things like that, where oftentimes it's the coming of age story thrown into an interesting set of circumstances to where the kids growing up or whatever are tested through that set of circumstances. And I think this one just does it so well because you fully see JoJo evolve in a fairly complex way, which is, again, credit to his acting, over the course of it. And you see it reflected in his Hitler imaginary friend and in the relationship that he grows with Elsa, and then, of course, dealing with his mom and all the extra things. And so I think that the core of this movie is all of the conversations held within that bedroom. And it definitely gets slow at times, but I think that they're just it's a beautiful dynamic, and it's so beautifully messy. And I find that fascinating, and I find that ultimately relatable. And I don't think I've ever left this movie not just feeling, maybe blissful is the wrong word, but like actually emotionally satisfied, because you've just seen this really, really amazing arc of this little boy growing into a much more mature little boy, and going through this tough stuff, but also all of the very real pitfalls of what actually happened, of, traitors getting hung, and it's all under the guise of the comedy, but it's still so visceral, I think. I mean, the first time I saw the movie and I saw the shoes hanging, and I was like, oh, damn, like they committed, they went with it. And it was way better off for it. Like, it gives this movie so much gravity for being a comedy, which I think that so many comedies just get pushed to the side because they're funny, or they're funny or they aren't. But this one has so much reality baked into it that I think it makes it so impactful. So I think that's why I gave it a 5. I relate to this movie a lot. I mean, not that I was harboring a Jew or anything, but just the dynamics of complex relationships, and just how they're explored in different situations. And finding a movie that does that so well is rare. So, yeah, sorry, long, tall soapbox, but 5, yeah.
So this, for anybody who doesn't know, this is exactly why we set up our scoring system this way, because we knew going into it that movies are going to be perceived differently from different people, and we wanted to be a reliable source to basically be utilized by you, the viewer. So Daniel, he had a great emotional connection to this. I didn't, and that'll average out. And anything that's really good, we'll both agree, or really bad, we'll both agree. So you can get an honest opinion here at We Have Notes.
We've got to find your emotional connection movie. Because emotional connections, it's fairly interesting for you.
Yeah, we'll find some.
I'm curious to know what movie you just like resonate with. It's like, no, I get it, I'm there. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So,
Jojo Rabbit, we have given you some notes, and your total score is 4.14. 4 out of 5 stars, ladies and gentlemen. That is a very good movie.
Absolutely.
Definitely go see this with an emotional reaction like that. You definitely want to watch this movie.
It's a really good movie.
Absolutely.
One of those hidden gems, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for watching. You can find our scores on Letterboxd. We are OTW Video on Letterboxd. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what movies you would like us to watch. But thank you so much for watching, and good night.
Goodbye.